Well, hello again. This is Sarah, your medium on the go, and welcome to Tarot for Our Times. And the story that won't go away is, of course, the Epstein story and the list. And I've done a video before, and I'm sure that this is not going to be my last video, but this is a little bit of a continuation of the Watergate comparisons because, as the title says, it's the cover-up, stupid. The crime is bad enough, but it's the cover-up that always gets them in the end. And this is just one more thing on the continuing journey of the death card, which I have said marks the beginning of the end. It is the journey towards the conclusion of the story. And if you look at the thumbnail, of course, I have Lady Liberty as the Knight of Death in this, and it's not meaning the death of the U.S. It's meaning that she's carrying the torch to continue the journey as this regime implodes. Now, for the dead guy here, that long live the king is dead, long live the king. I made it with several members on the of the cabinet because who's gone first? And someone's going to go. I was thinking that it was going to be Hegseth because of his blunders, and his part of the cover-up is, oops, I forgot to send the drones to Ukraine, so that's why so many of them are getting killed. But there was also a little of an attempt to cover that up. There's the Iran bombings, which was a complete fail because they didn't get what they were supposed to get. And so not only did they cover up, but they were saying it was disrespectful to the pilots who did it. Now, the pilots who did it, they are given, I'm not a military person, but you don't have to be one to know that all it takes is you get the target, you drop the bomb, that's it. If the intelligence has been off and you don't hit what you're supposed to, that's not your fault. That's not it. They did the job. They did it with refueling and not stopping, but that has nothing to do with the fact that they were not given the right target. So we have that little cover up, and so many more. Then we have the muskrat, his little titty baby here. Then, the Trump is Pope meme over here as the whole religious aspect. And, I don't know, one of those blondie girls as the martyr taking all the heat. So all the elements. And then, of course, the big thing is we have Nixon in this flag. Tricky Dick. There is, even the timeline is a little bit frighteningly on the money. I did a review through Wikipedia about that, and it was interesting because, and they took me down, because I was a young adult for that election. I voted for McGovern. And so I do remember sometime it was I couldn't remember when, but it reminded me that in the early part of 1972, which was the primaries weren't even done yet, but Nixon was the incumbent, the news of the Watergate broke. And I have wondered, did Woodward and Bernstein start that story, in 73? Because that's when it really hit the fan. Nope, they were on it. They did their job. I'm sure that they are taught in every journalism class. I'm sure that there are many younger investigative reporters who consider them the gold standard. And but the thing is that I was reading, it's like Now, Chicago papers and all of these, they didn't pick up the story. And then we were years away from having the internet. So that did not get much traction. I don't know if the same thing would have happened. Well, there is, because we all knew about the dementia, the sexual misbehavior that could be the R word, or we'll call it sexual. So we knew all of that has been out since the 90s, yet they still voted for him, just the same as Nixon had squashed the Watergate robbery investigation. And that was pretty much squashed because other papers and the radio and TV would not pick that up. But I am going to do a reading about the comparison of the media back then and today. So that's a whole reading. But this is just an explanation. Like, they knew about everybody. In fact, I thought, I wonder if that's going to hurt Nixon. And then you kind of like didn't hear about it. And then it wasn't until 1973 that all hell broke loose, and which was when that was the year he was inaugurated. This is the year that Trump was inaugurated. And that Epstein story has been out there. But once again, there's the cut. Whoops. We have the list. We don't have the list. And this story, he said, you gotta make it go away. Well, it isn't. I'm sure you've seen that interview where he screams at MAGA to forget about it. But they can't. Even if Nick Fuentes is like skewering him for this, that this is serious. So it's usually the cover-up that brings people down. I know he's gotten away with so much, but let's just say this is adding on to the pile of thing. And as I said previously, it's had a ripple effect. He's covered up this. They've covered up that. So what do I want to read on? Okay, how is this going to develop? Because, and also that there may be a cover-up with my previous video about was that assassination attempt real? So I just want to do a reading on the cover-up, just like the cover-up per se. What's going to happen? Where's it going to go? Because this story is changing, but it's deja vu. And I do, getting back to the media, I do remember when the Watergate story was really going, really the hearings. That was the summer of '73, and I remember when I would visit Pittsburgh sometimes on a weekend from New York, my father used to say that I just have such a problem with the media. They've been terrible. He said they should have finished him off years ago, and here we are. The same thing applies today. So one thing I want to do is with the oracle cards. We already see that this is the death, the March of the Death card. So let's see if we have an oracle card that can give the general energy. We have intention. And I think this is a double-edged sword. What is she doing here? Oh, she's out in the garden, I guess, making a wish. Okay, the intention on we can't even say the MAGA side, because they are really divided, big time divided now. That so on their side, they have the intention of saying, if we tell them the list doesn't exist, poof, it goes away. So he's got the DOJ and all of that sort of thing telling him that, and along with the lies that they have told, about other things. But I would say in our world, I think that instead of, I think we need to use a law of attraction and just set the intention that he needs to be held accountable. And when you set that intention, it puts you into action. You start calling your representatives. You start, doing whatever you are capable of doing. So we have to set the intention that this whole nightmare is going to end. But this is a very, very strong thing. So I just want to see where this cover up is going, because, I swear to God, these idiots don't pick up a history book. None of this, I mean, a lot of people, I think we just need to have less people getting hurt. Already we've had unnecessary deaths from COVID. We've had unnecessary deaths in Texas. We've had innocent people being picked up by ICE who are dying in these detention centers. I mean, this has just really got to end. So I'm going to do the reading on how this is going to develop as to where it is now. And if I have any questions, I may do a small reading, but I'm just going to do a general one on this because the energy is changing. It's even different from when I did this a number of days ago. So I've been shuffling these up, and so the energy of this is, oops. So we have the energy of the indicator is the energy of the hermit. So I would say these are the forces of the good shining the light on this situation, but that ever-present serpent in the infinity symbol says that there are always stumbling blocks, and some of them have been about his using the system to with delays to sidestep responsibility. So as we march on to the truth, to shine the light on the truth, we do have to be aware of this is Watergate language, the dirty tricks. This is all about dirty tricks. And we have to be aware of them because that is what they're doing. So energetically, we are crossed with the Fool, upright. So this is starting, what this is saying, this is the first, and some people say that this is the first and the last card in the tarot deck to make the full circle. So what needs to be done here is, of course, staying in the law, is to start to take a chance and to beat him at his own game, and to maybe take some daring steps. This may be telling the middle of the road Dems, grow a set. It's not going to kill you. You got to grow a friggin' set and try something new and take the leap of faith. I mean, I think this little dog here, which is supposed to be the spirit guide, I think that's AOC, Crockett, Adam, Bernie, a whole bunch saying, like, go ahead and do it. What have we got to lose? What have we got to? We're not in a majority in any of these things, so why not? So that is a very, very good thing. So with the before tarot leading up to this, we have oh, this is interesting. I always see something new because this is so new to me. Okay, and before we have the Four of Swords, but this is funny how I notice new things. But in the before, the stained glass windows of, he's reflecting spiritually, that it is to let these, I think they're butterflies, letting the butterflies in, because that is a signal to use this time for transformation. So what this is saying is that there could be it's like opening things up so that some of these people can transform themselves. Like maybe Hakeem Jeffries was speaking pretty tough, so maybe he's coming into his own, and other people that I think that Pelosi's probably done some good job in mentoring him, but now he's got to get out of that cocoon and find his own voice, which I think he may be starting to do. So in the after tarot for this, we have we have the Knight of Swords in reverse. When this is upright, he's going in for the kill. But and he hits the target, I would say, in reverse. He was going in for the kill, but misses. So the message of this is that wake up, you cannot be doing things the way you did them in the past. You need to, because you are going to miss the enemy. And so that's very interesting. Okay. I mean, if this were any other president, this guy would, since the day he took the oath of office, he's done so many impeachable things that this is just astounding. It's like everybody's fed up with how much longer can someone get away with this. Okay. So, underneath is the loyal knight. And this is keeping an eye on the prize and working slowly and methodically to reach the goal. So here's hoping that the lawmakers, the judiciary, have started to put this all together. And it's better to be putting this all together very, very carefully rather than being rash. See, this guy the fool is not rash. He's waited to get his facts together before leaping. There's still a risk, but he's armed himself with enough information, investigation. So this is getting ready to move. Some people have seen this as the mercenary, but not in this spread. Then we have the Queen of Pentacles. This is interesting because this is talking about this whole episode, and Jeffrey Epstein is talking about the threat to homeland security. When people are betting people, then there is that risk of the pillow talk. Now, I've heard the stories that I've seen other readers talk about Epstein being an agent of Mossad and trying to put people in government in compromising positions, which I'm thinking, I don't know about that, but this is sort of saying that there may be an element to that. Surprise, I did not expect that to come up. So now then we have here what we did in the past is not working. And I'm not saying that people need to be going and breaking the law, but I'm saying that this past of strictly adhering to the rules and staying in the middle of the road has obviously not been, it just hasn't been working, has not been working at all. And so we need to step outside the box a little bit, push the envelope, because this is trafficking. Do we want a head of state that's been part of trafficking children, basically? We at least need to find out about this, so to see if he is involved. There's various things. Okay, in opposition to this, we have death, but it is in reverse. So this has been part of the near-death experiences, the impeachments, the trials, all that sort of thing, but it's all adding up. This is all, I think some of them, this is also telling me about the complacency. Well, he's got away with this, that, and the other thing. Will do the same stuff, and he'll get away with this by and the attempt was to not release the list. But I feel as though this card is going to be turning upright. You add so many of these near deaths experiences together. It's like Tower reverse. You add so many of those together, and it adds up to upright. We're moving forward. So, okay, so in the subconscious, we have, the conscious, the conscious, always first. Boy, this is appropriate. The Nine of Swords. I think consciously, he and his enablers, the cabinet members, they're worrying. They don't want to show it in public, but you can know behind the scenes, they're really worried because now their own are turning against them. That's the whole thing. Now I wish I could remember the guy's name, but I did watch that psychiatrist talking about, and this is what this is the worrying thing, because then I think other psychiatrists agree. The MAGA turning on him is that whole QAnon with the Hillary and the pizza parlor child trafficking thing. They wanted those files exposed to prove that. But since he's not opening up, they feel betrayed and probably deep down worried inside that, of course, any fool would know that if somebody were innocent or had no part in it, he would have opened those files up in his first term. So they're very worried about, because MAGA and the QAnon Kool-Aid drinkers are starting to turn on him. So they're very worried about them because they need those people. Oh, here we go. Subconsciously. Subconsciously is the breaking up of that unholy alliance. The breaking up. So there's a subconscious worry, the conscious worrying, but then there's that whole subconscious thing going on right now of that has been going on for a while. So it's interesting because it's both in their conscious world and knowing that this is true subconsciously and maybe for a while. Okay. So in the past with Mr. Before Tarot, we have the Nine of Pentacles. The Nine of Pentacles. And, you always see her with her falcon coming in. She's waiting for that to come in because that is the news from the outside world, because she's in her little paradise. So this is pretty much everybody living in their little, to me, this is like those people, those idiot oligarchs that went to his inauguration, is that they were all very well insulated, but this bird may be bringing the message that they're not so insulated, especially if a few of them or those close to them are on the list. And I'm not going to say any names specifically because it could also be their loved ones and their oligarch guests that we've never heard of. That could be, there's a whole lot of thing that's saying that this bird could be flying in to give the message that their little ivory tower is not safe anymore. So this has been brewing in the past. So in the present, we have, again, Nine of Swords. They're worrying. And see, in the earlier one, those swords are just up on the wall, but they're actually the blinds, but of course she sees them as the swords. But in her mind now, they're ready to go. This is like worrying is increased, because now in her mind they're getting ready to They're all pointed at her, and there's no way she's going to sleep. So it's all of this stuff, all these things, whether it's the bill, it's the the big horrible bill, and it's the Doge boys, and it's all of this stuff that's coming in on them. That's why I'm saying that even though we may be focusing on Epstein, it's all the other stuff they've been covering up too. So this is the bigger picture, and this represents all of these things are closing in on them. Now, whether it's going to take another year like it did, because the Nixon resigned in August of the second year he held office. That was pretty fast. 1973, like, boom, it took on a life of its own. And then by 1974, the guy had been in office for less than 2 years. With the internet and everything else today, who knows if it's going to even take this long. But if you read the history, it is following the timetable. So, okay. Then coming up in the near future, we have this is going to catch fire. This is a very young energy. He rides that horse. It's going to really, really take off. And the knights in the tarot are on their way to becoming kings. So I see this as someone, this goes beyond the Page of Swords and reverses the spy in the camp. This goes to the younger, ambitious person that's going to want to take the power and go run with this. Now, some would think that it is Shady Vance. I think Shady Vance would like to see him, and but nah, he doesn't have the energy. There's someone else. But the thing is with these people is that when they get too ambitious, they burn themselves out. So there may be someone trying to do that, probably one of those people he pardoned, because this kind of represents that sort of thing, charging to the Capitol to overthrow a legal election. Okay, so going a little further into the future, we have the Hermit. We have the Hermit. But this time it's in reverse. I would say that this is the core of this regime getting isolated, and the serpent represents something they were not expecting, and as I say, he's not holding this very correctly, which means that could bite him. So this is a kind of, I think he sees the serpent in the past. He picks it up hastily without knowing what he's doing. Then we kind of have this wolf in the, kind of waiting. So that in a certain way is that these MAGA folks have isolated themselves, and they're not handling this in the brightest way. I think they're going to try the tricks, but this is saying we're wise to the tricks. So they're not going to get the public opinion. Who knows about the courts? That's a hard one to pick. So one more little bit more futuristic card we have. This is the Nine of Cups. This is I like to think of it as the complacent, but be careful what you wish for, merchant. So here he has getting this meal. Oh boy, he really represents the oligarchs. He's got the servant bringing him this very big meal that, of course, looking at him, he's going to scarf that down like Trump scarfs down a whole bag of Big Macs or a bucket of the Kentucky Fried Chicken. And so we have he's being served by the middle class, which probably represents the MAGA thing, but this also represents the greed of the oligarchy, and this country and in the world. And the problem is that he's either, it looks like he's ready to dig on into that. It looks like he's either going to like stuff himself to death or probably choke on some of that food. It's like what comes to from the greed. And it also, they're not really paying heed to the fact of Putin is unaliving a lot of the oligarchs. So that this is really be careful what you wish for. So this goes for the Bezos and the Zuckerbergs and all those people, the tech bros in Silicon Valley, is that you are out of your greed, you are biting off way more than you can chew, because even worse than Putin is that as soon as Taco Tatas finds no more use for you, he just throws you under the bus. Putin throws them out the windows, he throws them out of the bus, under the bus. So this could be happening. This could be the desperate attempt as this story takes on more of a life of itself. So, in the hopes and the fears, we have, boy, oh boy, you can't make this stuff up. With the Seven of Pentacles, the hopes of that they can walk away from this rotten fruit, the poisonous fruit from the rotten tree that they planted over years, that they can just walk away from it. But it can't be done. I'm trying to see what's in the background. Yep, she's not going to climb up that ladder. But you can't. She thinks she's going to get away from it, but she's already been corrupted so that she may be moving away to testify. So there may be some Haldermans. This card is telling me that they hope they can walk away, but as time goes on, they fear that they can't walk away. So we may have some budding Haldermans, Ehrlichmans, and a John Dean or two thrown in with the mix. I would say that little blondie girl may want to become John Dean before she becomes or what was his name? The Attorney General under John Mitchell, before she becomes John Mitchell. Okay. But she'll probably go the John Mitchell route, like I said in a previous. So that's the hopes and the fears. So, now this is the inner circle, because they're really trying, the ones that want to cover this up. So, I want to see what the MAGA thing is. Okay, so what what the loyalists, how the loyalists see themselves, because I'm not doing any other read. I think this is wrapping it up. Okay, so what the loyalists, how the loyalists see themselves is the Knight of Cups in reverse. So what this tells me is that as toxic as they are, they do see themselves as the victims in this whole thing, and they see him and themselves as the victims. So they are the kind of stocky Knight of Cups in reverse. It's amazing how these cards keep repeating themselves. They see themselves as the kind of stocky, but putting themselves in the white Christian guy's position of victimhood and martyrdom. So this is how they see themselves. How others see them is the World in reverse. So this is the last card of the tarot before we go back to the full. Interesting that this came up at the beginning. So what others see is that starting to see all of the unfinished business the cycle is not completed. There is a lot of unfinished business. There's with the Epstein, with Ukraine, with all of this, that it's not completed. They're trying to complete this with lies, but others are seeing through the lies and saying, we're not closing this up because you told us there's no list. So this is kind of the collective of people that have half a brain are saying, no, we're not buying this. So in the big, I'm going to draw a tarot and a oracle. So in the conclusion of this, we have the Four of Pentacles in reverse. So this is the reverse, and plopping it on top of all of these. The reverse is the upright on steroids. It's kind of like no matter how much evidence is presented at this time, that the inner circle enablers and Taco are going to really hang on to the lies, to the story that they want everyone to believe, until, as we see some of these pentacles, until there are some that will be slipping away. And it's in the Watergate comparison of the Ehrlichmans, all of that stuff. So there will be some peeling away to save their own necks, but the inner core is like they have their story, they're sticking to it regardless of what proof they're given. They never learn, but that does not, what they don't realize is that makes the story live on. And even though we don't have people like the ones that, headed the New York Times and the Washington Post in the early 70s, they have their own oligarchs. There is the internet, so that this means, and more people are going to that. They're going to Ben Mysalis and all the rest, and saying to hell with the, they'll pick and choose. They'll go to the O'Donnells and the Maddows on YouTube. They'll cherry pick those, but that this is taking on a life of its own. So the internet is really running with this, and so as far as the oracle cards going is thought. I would say that many people are putting this all together and thinking and seeing it's not only this. This is dramatic because we're dealing with children being exploited in the most disgusting way possible. But the thoughts of this lead to, well, if he lied about this, let me think about Ukraine. Let me think about that bombing in Iran, which we're starting to feel the repercussions. Let's think about the 24 election, and they're pretty much admitting that the Muskrat did some hanky. So people are, when something this dramatic comes out, people are thinking. So covering this up isn't going to work. I think I do have to, and this is taking me back to, again, the 1972 election. And I remember I walked over to the polls at the Maritime High School in the West Village in New York with someone who lived in my building, Anna Rose, and she was a Italian girl from Staten Island, and that is the heart of traditional Republicans. Very, very, very Republican. And we walked over to the polls, and we were laughing about how we were canceling out each other's votes. So fast forward to, I guess, a year after that, maybe not even a year after that, but going into the following year, when the news broke out, and I had a conversation with her, and she said, you know what? no one can convince me he didn't know about what was going on at the Watergate Hotel. She said, I think he's into this deep. And this is someone who voted for him. Now, it's not a this is like your grandfather's Republican, old school Republican, but very, very devoutly Republican. And I believe that those kinds that voted for him, not maybe 3 times, those are the kind of people that are going to be peeling off. They're definitely going to be peeling off with this guy here. These are the coins that will be dropping out of this, while others will be hanging on. So this is telling me that this is not only going to take on a life of its own, but all the other stuff too. So I will be doing some follow-ups on this, and I did feel tricky coming through in a mediumistic way, and he's saying, I'm not done yet. So at any rate, Nixon and all those other people will be haunting this story and me, probably. So at any rate, I will see you soon, and I wish you bye-bye.